Hey guys, it's Jen. Glad you're joining me for day 2. Today, it's all about opening up into your hands and your wrist and really getting appreciation for how much we use these things, because we do. And a lot of times we think, oh, we need to open our chest and we need to do all that, which is great. But you sometimes and often forget how much pressure and how much time is put on your hands, or you forget to even want to, and so you just stop doing it. And over time, wrists become stiffer, joints don't move, and fingers aren't as pliable as they once were. So this one, pretty simple. You could do it standing, you don't have to do it sitting down. If it's easier for you to put your arm on a table or a bench or even your bed, totally fine. I like to flip my hands around. And so I'll start more on top, and then as I start to lean back, that's when I start to get that wrist extension stretch. So a lot of times, especially if you're lifting and you're doing front squats or handstands, handstands are a big one, we really need that wrist extension. And a lot of times people just think, oh, I'll just put the bar on and over time it's gonna extend, which is true. But you're also just jamming into joints that aren't ready for it or muscles that aren't ready for it. So this is a really good one. The thing about passive stretching, if you're just holding into it, you really want to be using your breath. So you're really breathing and relaxing to get those muscles to relax, because that's the whole point of passive stretching. But you also got to hold it for about 2 minutes. So that's kind of the bummer thing. A lot of people think, oh, 30 seconds, 10 seconds even, I'll just hold into a stretch and over time it's gonna lengthen. Probably not gonna happen, or it's gonna take you a long time. And then the other thing is, with passive stretches, just doing a passive stretch usually isn't enough, but activating at end range of motion is everything. So we're gonna hold into this passive stretch, but then we're also gonna activate into it at end range of motion. So I'm gonna show you how to do that in just a little bit. So as you start to stay into that stretch, you should start to relax and it should start to get a little bit easier. If you're feeling too much compression onto the wrists, definitely back off and feel free to do that. There's no judgment. There's no, you don't have to be seated back as much as I am. I do lots of handstands and I have for a large part of my life. So definitely no pressure to be going as far as someone else. You start at your own journey and your own pace. Okay, so after about 2 minutes, we're gonna actually stay in that extension, just flip the hands around. This is one of my favorites to do. So as I'm gonna come into that passive range, just on the other direction now, and as I'm kind of putting pressure into it, I'm gonna start to press, and now I'm using my wrist flexors, which are on the other side, to extend and reach up, and then I'm slowly going to control it back down. So the eccentric part of the exercise, which is the motion on the way down, where the muscles are lengthening. So these muscles are actually lengthening out at the same time that they're being worked and there's still load into them. That is actually gaining flexibility. So that's a lot of times why people who accidentally do lift and they do become more supple sometimes, it's because of the eccentric phase of the exercise is actually helping them to gain some flexibility. So after about 10 of these, so just kind of see how your wrist feels. It should open up a little bit more, because now we're gonna come into cat-cow. Now you're gonna place your wrist down. And now this should be no problem, right? Because before we were kind of putting a little bit more pressure, and now we're just having the hand right underneath you. This was one of my largest complaints with Pilates clients, yoga clients, is people who didn't want to put any pressure onto the wrist. But after you properly warm it up, you should have no problem. So yesterday I went over a spinal rotation. Today we're just going to extend and flex, a really easy cat-cow. But we're going to use a breath. So we're going to breathe in and allow the shoulders to drop away from the ears, and then breathe out and reverse it. So the goal is to get the spine to move with the breath, really pressing it down and then breathing out, reaching it up. My shoulders stay away from my ears the entire time, even on the way up. So even when I'm here, I'm not pressing up through here. I'm pressing through my palms to round up through my spine. Okay? So I'll move through this about 10 times. There's a lot of other things that I do with cat-cow that I'll get into. Maybe you've seen it on an Instagram post, or maybe you'll see it later. But today we're just gonna focus on a cat-cow, because if you're gonna add anything into your life and getting that spine moving, this will be my go-to. Good, so after 10, we're just gonna spread the knees for a second. We're gonna come back into that child's pose. So this is reaching out further and just relaxing. So I'm gonna have you relax your head onto the floor as I just talk through you for a little bit. The thing about breath that we talked about yesterday is really allowing your body to let go. When we do it on your back, you wanna feel your belly and your ribs expanding. When you do it on your stomach, so more in a child's pose type of position, you want to feel the breath coming actually into the lower back, okay? So again, if you have a hard time meditating, you have a hard time really shutting off the mind, think about where the breath is going. Start to focus on the breath. And then start to think about what we just did. How often do we use our hands? How often do we have to press down on something and lift our bodies up? How amazing that we have the ability to have these hands to be able to do that. Some people are born with no hands, or are in an accident, or have such severe nerve damage that their hands are locked up and they can't use them. You can spread them. You have the ability to start to move them. You can touch, you can feel. Your fingers are so powerful and they do a lot for you. So making sure that we take care of them, that we're appreciative of them, and that we're using them is really important. So I just want you to start to not only use your hands and move through life, but take care of them. This is why you need some wrist mobility, because you get to use your hands, you get to feel with your hands, and you don't want to lose that ability to push and to stand and to feel. So continue to take appreciation for them and warm them up before you're gonna drop down or do any handstands or any heavy front squats or anything like that. So that's why this is super important. And I hope you got some appreciation. I hope you got some breathing into that child's pose, breathing into your low back, and really relaxing into your nervous system. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Have a great day.